guys, welcome to a podcast. Today, my guest is somebody very special. I know researching your profile, Louis, I learned so much about yourself. You are entrepreneur, personal and business mentor, speaker, writer, and you are many board of directors, business strategist, thinker, business influencer. Also, you've authored 2 books, Mother and Father, Health and Financial Advice to share with your parents, and also Why Business Stopped Growing and what you can do about it. So much about you we can read online. I'm looking forward to our discussion and learning from you. Thank you so much for your time, Louis.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Louis. Where you focus on these days? Where your energy goes? Are you still involved in 3 companies? I see that you were involved in HS and Partners, Office Movers, and Hockley Miller Ltd. Are you still involved in all 3, or where are your energies these days?
No, so I'm still the managing partner, CEO of HS and Partners. It's a full-service chartered professional accounting firm in Mississauga near the airport.
Mm-hmm.
I sold my interest in the Office Movers a year ago to my 2 junior partners. I'm still involved in Hockley Miller, which is a corporate finance company. So part of the service I do is to help companies raise money, whether it's equity, venture debt, or traditional debt.
Mm-hmm.
I also am a partner now and one of the founders of a new telecom, a fiber optics telecom, which we're expanding out. We actually are digging and owning the real estate. We're laying fiber and providing the same services as a Bell, full services right up to TV, media, etc. So I keep myself busy on top of my real estate and other investments. So I'm a busy guy, but I enjoy it.
Interesting. So if you give us a little bit, how do you get involved in all this different organization? What's your journey been, Louis? If you give us a little bit of background, I know you have a financial background. So how do you get involved in businesses, managing companies and running businesses?
Well, I guess there's a number of layers to that answer. First off, I've always been very challenged to do the same thing day in, day out.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have different experiences. I'm a very entrepreneurial guy, and I like to have action. I like the deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
The art of the deal, as they say. So to be able to do that, I created a business, the CPA firm, first and foremost, which was my foundation. That firm created my lifestyle foundation, and no matter what happens, it always provided me a great lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
the income to have a great lifestyle. And the only way to do that, a lot of accountants make the mistake that they think, spending 2,000 hours a year doing billable hours is great, but that's a ceiling of what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fond of saying that the only thing better than working hard for your money is having a bunch of other people work hard for your money.
Yeah.
And this is where you build a business where you can leverage off people, you pay them very well, you reward them well, and that expands to a point where I have time to do other things,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And those other things came naturally in the world of business and finance. I mean, you sit on boards, you raise money, you help advise people, and that, frankly, after my formative years in my late 20s and 30s, instead of helping everyone else make money, which I enjoy to do, I decided to make money for myself as well in these other ventures. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of charging people money for my advice, I would get equity, and
Mm-hmm.
then I would just start doing my own deals.
Mm-hmm.
So as an example, the Office Mover was a bankrupt company that I bought out of bankruptcy,
Mm-hmm.
right, and turned it around immediately. So things like that are fun little projects to do. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. So you've been very successful in building company, running companies. So where do you see a lot of medium-sized companies? Where do they struggle normally? Is it in planning of the business or just financial side? Where do you see the most business leaders struggle? What's a common mistake or struggles that you see in your career?
Well, I'm going to answer that with a long answer, and I apologize, because I'm a big believer. I've lectured at Ryerson at times as a guest lecturer on this very topic, where people oftentimes forget why they're in business.
Mm-hmm.
And they forget what is actually success. What is the true definition of success in business? So for an owner manager, whoever's listening out there, I'm fond of saying to my clients, my friends, peers, the only reason you're in business is to make your family wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
That's your objective,
mm-hmm.
to make your family well off. You can't do that if you keep rolling all your profits into the company. So the whole point of a business is to create an independent source of income that flows enough income to your family that protects them and creates other sources of income, like investment income, etc. So that's the ultimate success of a business, right? To the shareholders, whether it's numerous shareholders or the family. Within the business, a lot of entrepreneurs fail because they've forgotten what is true success and how to manage a business. And I'll explain it by way of a balance sheet versus an income statement. An income statement tells you how capable you are of making money. A balance sheet shows you how capable you are of managing money. Those are two fundamentally different capabilities, skill sets. In fact, most companies that have gone bankrupt knew how to make money, didn't know how to manage money. In fact, the office mover that I referred to earlier, I bought that company out of bankruptcy in spite of the fact it had doubled its sales each year, 4 years in a row, and was never had less than $100,000 in profit. So if you only looked at the income statement on the office movers, when I bought it out 15 years ago, it was a profitable growing business. You looked at the balance sheet and the amount of debt that required servicing, said its cash flows, for every dollar it made in profit, it needed $3 in cash flow to service its basic debts because of growth. So what happens is most entrepreneurs and business people, they focus on the income statement. And then many of them focus only on the top line, sales. And it comes by them honestly. Why? When you look at the papers and you read about the public markets, what's the number one thing everyone talks about? Oh, the stock went up because the sales projections went up. This went up. It's all about sales, 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 growth, growth, growth. Well, that might make sense from a public company perspective for a lot of different reasons. But from a private company, that doesn't necessarily make sense. Profitable growth makes sense, but growth for the sake of growth does not. And then the second level of success to understand, so if you accept sales as an important metric, not the ultimate metric, an important metric, then gross profit is probably the most important metric. I know too many entrepreneurs who have failed or have challenges, cash flow challenges, because their gross profit margins are too low. At the end of the day, I'm fond of saying to people, I don't care what you think you sell. You think you might sell machines, you think you might sell cups or saucers or whatever, or suits. You only sell one thing, and that's gross profit margin. Your job is to get the highest and best price you get for that product or service and reduce the amount of the direct cost to that price as much as you can. That gives you gross profit. So that's another success metric, but not the only metric. Now you control your overheads, right? This is all income statement still. That gives you a profit. But as I said with the office movers as an example, it always had great growth and great profit, or reasonable profit, but it still went bankrupt. Why? Because profit is nothing more than a paper concept. It's not cash in the bank. Your profit can be tied up in AR, accounts receivables, inventory, equipment, you name it. You've got payables that are growing. If you don't have the cash because it's tied up in inventory, accounts receivable, then your payables start going up and up and up and up. Your debts start going up because you have to borrow money to fund cash flow. Next thing you know, that house of cards, someone's going to push it. And in spite of the profits on the income statement, you go bankrupt. So what I say to people, the most successful entrepreneurs that I've been able to take on as clients and that I've helped with friends and peers, stop looking at your monthly income statement. You have to manage your business with cash flow. And how you do it is you create a 12-month rolling cash flow. And I'll explain that in a second. You use your sales projections, your costing projections, and you know every month, or you have an idea of where you're going to stand in the bank after all your revenues, your collections, your expenses, your payouts, and then your net profit, and then your cash flow. Cash flow and net profit are two different things, right? If once you have, let's say, January's real numbers came in, you plop those real numbers in your cash flow, and it changes the forward-looking number. So you know 3, 4, 5 months from now what January's results will do to you and your bank account in May, June, July.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like driving a car. You don't drive a
Yeah.
car looking at your hood ornament.
Mm-hmm.
You drive your car looking down the road.
Yeah.
Running a business is no different. Your
Mm-hmm.
cash flows allow you to look down the road as opposed to just looking at your hood ornament. And when you
Mm-hmm.
look at your financial statements, you're not even looking at your hood ornament. You're looking in your rearview mirror, what happened back then.
Yeah.
You can't drive like that.
Mm-hmm.
And too many people don't understand that. They
Mm-hmm.
don't understand ratio analysis. So I would say that for the successful entrepreneurs, they either have learned how to read and financial statements, ratios, and manage cash flow, or they've hired or partnered with someone who does.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got both sets of competencies: how to make money, how to manage money. And that's the key to success for a lot of people. And then finally, ultimate success is how much money you have in that bank account.
Mm-hmm.
You got to collect well, manage inventories well.
Mm-hmm.
Don't spend more money than you can afford and tie it up into inventories or fixed assets and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you have money in the bank, first person who's paid is yourself and your family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've got to make sure they get out first. If you want to grow the company, great. First, you pay yourself and your family what your minimum needs are,
Mm-hmm.
and then a little more, because you want to create those extra sources of income that are independent of the business.
Mm-hmm.
If all that makes sense. So
Yeah.
really learning how to understand what real success is by managing money, not just making money, either developing or hiring on those competencies to manage money. Okay. And then understanding that the ultimate success is creating your family wealth, not business wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So on a very broad picture, a Reader's Digest version, that's how I would say is the biggest problem I've seen for entrepreneurs that have been struggling.
Mm-hmm. But entrepreneur, they start a business with a passion. They have a they have a passion about something that they start a business, and that they have to learn a lot of different things, and finding a balance between there's a pressure to grow because you have to sustain a business, and now definitely financial side, you have to manage the business properly. What is usually struggle? Is it a learning new information, or is it simply just a focus on a survival mode more than financial management? Where does the challenge come from? Like, why not a lot of business leader who start a business invest time and energy into learning all the financial side of things as well? So, or partner with somebody, as you mentioned, who can manage a financial side better. So where's the struggle? Why don't people take one of those roles that you just mentioned?
Because people, when they struggle, they're completely fixated and focused on that struggle. And it's very difficult to have the mental bandwidth to expand your peripheral vision and learn other things that are important to it, because you're frankly too busy fighting fires, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you say it's important to grow what? Sales or cash? I've had owners of companies that have come to me struggling, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
The right answer was to reduce sales by eliminating those non-profitable products and services, firing those clients who are a pain in the ass, who always fight every invoice, who take 180 days to pay. Fire them. You spend way too much time and effort on those people. And replace them with better clients. Replace products with better, higher gross profit products. And I've had companies that have improved their profit and improved cash in the bank by reducing sales 30-40%.
Wow.
Because you can see there's a certain amount of types of clients. If you're a service business, certain clients. If you're a sales company with products, certain products that take up way too much time, energy, and cash flow and hurt everything else. So you want to grow cash flow. And then if you have that perspective, it'll change the way you look at your company and business. Right?
I see.
That's the key.
Do you see this, especially Toronto is especially a tech hub, and you involve a lot of tech companies. Do you see this happens, this occur more in a certain industries? I don't know a lot of other industry, how they struggle with that, but I know my industry, technology industry, especially struggle with that because we run, businesses with very low profit margins. A lot of the technology companies, because they're trying to scale up so fast, they run on very low profit margin, and that itself creates a different kind of problems for the businesses. Do you find that applies to different sectors of the industry more than other ones?
Well, of course it does. I mean, when I talk about inventory, your sector doesn't have inventory as an example, but you do have AR. And the problem with your sector is a lot of people go in undercapitalized. You need to understand that when you go in, you're building up a new business, you're developing a product or taking it to market for the first time. Market entry pricing means you're going to have to be selling a lot less than the next guy because that guy's already embedded in the clients that you want to take them from. That's hard to do. When you got a software, it's a real hard sale to say, by the way, my software is better than your software. But if you come to my software, now you got to go over, X number of weeks of learning curve and mistakes. No one wants to. That's a very high barrier to get that client. That's a challenge. So you have to be prepared for long-term sales and market entry. Therefore, you need to be properly capitalized. And a lot of people don't get capitalized properly. So what happens, particularly in Canada, they end up building a great product and they end up selling it, or licensing it or something. But that happens an awful lot more than people expect in the IP world or in the tech world. And I'm talking now software tech. Yeah. There's a lot of tech which is development of products. Again, it's undercapitalized, when you get there. So a lot of friends and family rounds will come in and keep investing. But then you have to realize at some point that you're not a product company, you're a sales company. You got to take that product. Hopefully you had the right product for the right time at this right market, and now sell the hell out of it. Oops, probably shouldn't say hell in this day, but my apologies.
No. Well, you get up, sales does take a lot of effort, human energy. That's one area going to take a lot of effort, discipline, structure, human energy. If you don't spend that kind of investment into sales, you're not going to grow. And sales takes longer to build pipeline as well. It's not something you can turn around very quickly, right?
I mean, that it's very hard to be an entrepreneur. Less than, the last stat I read, less than 3% of the population, I don't even think it's that high, I think it's probably 2% of the population are self-employed. Think of that stat. The self-employed person has tremendous advantages in life down the road, but tremendous disadvantages and challenges up front. That's why only 2% of the population become entrepreneurs and maintain that as an entrepreneurial.
But understanding, Louis, that part, these people take a lot of risks, they take a lot of challenges, they go through a lot of hardship. Shouldn't governments or somebody should make it a little bit easier for them? Hey, listen, I know what you're going through. Maybe let us help you out. I understand there's two sides to it. One is, people want to take advantage of that, government policy. But other side, people are genuinely trying to work hard and build, employment for other. Shouldn't somebody step in and say, listen, let me help you out? So what are you trying to get through some of those challenges?
The answer is absolutely yes, but politically it won't happen. And I'll tell you why. Okay. And I actually sat on the, first off, I should proclaim that I am politically agnostic. I voted liberal, I voted conservative. They're all the same when it comes to policy like this. I'll be honest with you, in spite of what you hear. I actually sat on the board of the Policy and Advisory Committee for the PC Party of Ontario to help develop economics in Ontario, to help thrust Ontario further up the food chain in terms of the world order of economies. And it was an interesting experience. I've done very informally with liberals as well. The challenge is this. Again, statistics, and they might be a little out of date, okay? If I recall correctly, small business that is defined by less than 100 employees represent over 70, depending on which statistic you believe, anywhere from 76 to 82% of all non-government employment in our country. Think about that. So government employment is X percentage of the population. And you got the big boys, IBMs, all those ones. They represent only, again, maybe anywhere from 18 to 24% of all employment. Everything else is small business, less than 100 people. So the small business sector represents the largest source of employment in our country. It should be helped. The problem is, politically, who are you going to piss off? 2% of the voters or the rest of the voters? This is why you hear these political leaders, and I'm not going to get into politics right now, but some of them, we all know who they are. Oh, you can pay more. You're rich, you're an entrepreneur. Oh, you're this, you're that. You don't need any breaks. And the big breaks go to the big boys who can say to a politician, oh, I can give you immediately 10,000 jobs if you give me this money. If you think about our unemployment rate at any point in time is around 6%. And this time unemployment is very skewed because of CERB.
Mm-hmm.
Unemployment includes people who really don't want to work, which is a problem, right? But
Yeah.
if you could get only half of the number of entrepreneurs in this country to hire just one more person, you've eliminated unemployment in this country. Think of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because 70% is small. Yeah.
Think of that. So at the end of the day, the big picture macroeconomic thinking are very simple, elegant solutions. The problem is you can't get voted in because you've got a whole segment of the population who are purposely uneducated. They don't want to know economics. They don't care. They vote based on what I call feel-good voting. Does that guy have nice hair? Does he have a charming smile? Is he this or he's that? I'm going to vote for him. He says the good little words, the little phrases, catchphrases, right? And this goes across all parties. And people are unintelligent when it comes to understanding how a society is integrated with economics, is integrated with law and order, etc. They forget about it. So the politicians don't need to focus on it, right? Small business should be lionized. Small business people have the financial swords of Damocles hanging over their necks every single second of every minute of every hour, every day. Let me count it on my fingers. A small business owner who's the director of his company is personally responsible for unpaid HST, personally responsible for unpaid payroll, personally responsible for unpaid payroll taxes. You've probably got your house to secure the operating line to loan to the bank. Do you think any of the big CEOs of the big companies have any of that? No. The companies are big enough to indemnify them from any of that type of risk. So every day they go into work, they've got those challenges and risks hanging over their neck.
Yeah.
The banks will not give you an operating line. They'll give you a mortgage to support your operating line.
Yeah.
Right? Again, small businesses under 100 employees. So the problem we have is politically and financially, the system is geared to make entrepreneurship hard. We don't support it in this country. Okay, which is one of it manifests in a very interesting way. Canada is one of the few major economies, and we are a major economy in the world, that has the fewest international corporations of other countries. You've got Finland and Sweden who individually have the population of Toronto, and they have more international successful firms than we do. Okay, as an example. Why? Because they're entrepreneurial. They have an ecosystem, a political social ecosystem that supports entrepreneurs and that allows them to grow, including the tax system, allows them to grow and become bigger internationally, bigger domestically and internationally. We do not support that in this country. It's as simple as that. It's a challenge, and it's something I've been fighting for. I'm a big proponent on defending entrepreneurs, and pushing the governments and the people I know, my political friends. You got to do this. Some of my ideas have actually been enacted, which is I'm very happy about. So the bottom line is that entrepreneurs have a tough time as it is. So you can understand when they go into the office in the morning or in their shop or wherever, they have a lot of fires in their mind they got to fight. So in spite of me sitting here, in a nice comfortable chair saying, well, you got to look at your cash flows. Well, you do, but I understand clearly why it's hard for you to do so. Right?
Yeah, very interesting. And one other number I saw, Louis, my stats could be off a little bit, that majority of this, small business owner, they all, very close to retirement. They all above age of 60, 65. And that number is very big. I'm not sure if the 70, 80% somewhere that number is. That's going to create another challenges in a Canadian market where these people's going to look for the exit over the next 5-10 years. And if there's no, people to recruit from, what's going to happen to businesses? They're going to change hands somewhere.
Oh, no, that's an easy answer. So first off, you're right. I don't know the quantum of it, the size of it. I don't know how long it is because we've been predicting this for the last 10 years. There's a lot more companies up for sale. The problem is a lot of the owners have a high unrealistically high value they place on the business, so that always is a bit of a shock to them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's plenty of buyers. I'll tell you what, the challenge that Canada has is there's too many buyers from America seeking Canadian companies.
Okay.
Why? We are a highly educated, frankly brilliant society.
Mm-hmm.
You know the term R&D, research and development.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We are world renowned in the research of the R&D, but terribly renowned in the development because we don't have the money. We're not risk takers, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's the Americans that come up and buy all these companies that have developed interesting technologies.
Mm-hmm.
They buy them and they put higher valuations to them than the Canadians would value. So there's always, I've personally sold some of my clients who are time to retirement to American companies, 100%. The telecom I mentioned to you, the telecom that we started, we had to raise money. Do you think I could get raised it was over $45 million. Do you think I could raise that in Canada?
Mm-hmm.
No, I had to go to the States. And the painfully ironic story there is that the company, it was a venture fund, they were funded by the Canadian pension plan. So the CPP went to the States looking for products and they found them a great Canadian product. We could have cut that middleman out.
Mm-hmm.
So we do not have a good VC ecosystem here. There's no question about that. But the bottom line, the other thing that's really good for ensuring that there's a good demand for businesses to be sold is immigration,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're very lucky in a sense that there's a lot of cultures that have come to our country that are very entrepreneurial cultures. My goodness, they're wonderful, and they've added to our culture and ecosystem here tremendously. And you've got many of them that are here very entrepreneurial. They want to buy companies, they want to start up companies, and that's really, we're blessed here, particularly in Southern Ontario, GTA, right? Particularly. So there's never going to be a problem to sell a company. You may not get the value you want for it, but there's never a problem to sell a company. At least I've not seen it yet.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, especially with the with the tech skills that are coming from Asian countries, India, China, Indonesia, that and Toronto being a tech hub, definitely tech companies that you get a lot more capital to invest on because you got the tech skills from these the countries, right?
100%.
Okay. How about, let's talk about COVID. What are your thoughts on COVID? What changed on the landscape of businesses in Ontario or in Canada overall? Where do you think that struggle came in, and where do you think it's going to have a biggest impact on the longer run from COVID?
COVID is very hard to predict because I believe how society deals with COVID will be dependent on equal parts between the science and the politics. And it may not make sense one way or the other. Right now, what I've seen is these lockdowns, in my humble opinion, just don't work. Mm-hmm. You're going to lock down successfully, then another variant comes in. What was the point of lockdown? Mm-hmm. I know the more emerged doctors I speak to, who are not allowed to speak, they've been told. A lot of emerged doctors I've spoken to, and a lot of the reading I do, suggest that we're at least now at a double vaxxed level where there's no longer a need to lock down. If people are chose not to be vaccinated, let themselves lock themselves down, okay, to protect themselves, and then hopefully business will come back to normal. If there's another lockdown, then we have to again look at the big picture. When we talk and you hear the papers always love drama and scare and fear.
It sells.
It sells.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about the hospitality industry, the poor restaurants, and all these companies locking down. Well, if you actually looked at the macro statistics of our total economy, the total number and the percentage of our GDP of those industries that were terribly affected by COVID was less than 4% of the GDP. That's why the government said it's a good lockdown phase. The rest of the companies were fine. I know I thrived. I know most of my clients thrived. There was a handful who did not, because the lockdowns prevented that particular business doing business, right? Mm-hmm. So the majority of the companies during COVID did very well, if not better, or certainly not hurt, right? You have the different challenges, hiring employees, finding teams, people, right? As we all were well aware of. But at the end of the day, a politician, and this is why I say it's equal parts science and politics. You know, you've got a Doug Ford, let's say in Ontario, and everyone loves to pick, he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, right? At the end of the day, you're Doug Ford sitting around your table with all your senior party people and say, okay, we got 40% of the population want lockdowns because they are radically believe we must lock down.
Yeah.
We got 40% of the population deathly against lockdowns because they really believe in herd immunity and that we need to basically make sure we get vaccinated and there's no more excuses for lockdowns. And then you got 20% who's kind of, we're not sure, right? There's a lot of different information, misinformation, wrong information out there. Who the heck knows, right? So then he says, all right, if we lock down, we're getting a lot of angry business people and a lot of people annoyed they can't go to Walmart or whatever, or their little corner stores. If we don't lock down, we're going to have people accusing us of killing people. What do you think is the worst of those two options? No one wants to be accused of killing people.
Definitely.
And being grossly criminally negligent. So they lock down. So now, with the vaccination rates up and the science coming out more and more and more, it appears, hopefully, that lockdowns are no longer required. We have to learn as a society to live through this and deal with this, right? So based on that commentary, to answer your question, I believe businesses will have an easier time going forward. Some industries have been hurt terribly, and they got a lot of catching up to do because they've accumulated debt to stay alive. Or they've got to reopen now and need cash flow to restock inventories, rehire and train people, right? That happens. So it's all about, again, cash flow management. It's back to cash flow management. So I think I answered your question. If I didn't.
No, I'm just looking for business leaders who are listening. Some of them, they have to innovate their products. During the COVID, they have to re-innovate their services. If it's not whole product and services, maybe the way they deliver the product and services, they have to re-innovate.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So there's a lot of changes they have to take on. So that the impact those on the businesses usually is, hey, we used to, especially in our industry, that you're absolutely correct on that. Our business didn't hurt much, but but finding people was one of the challenges. Or training people, because nobody wants to go on site because of health and safety reason, and that's rightly so that people should be careful about. So those kind of challenges business leaders have to go through, and most of the time they have to re-innovate the services, how they deliver services. A lot of services they used to do on site, there's office now open. Now you have to do remotely. Technology kind of stepped in, right, in so many different directions.
100%. In fact, the main areas I see impacted is finding people who want to come to work and not work too much remotely, right? How you deal with clients. Do you go to their offices? Therefore, the office space sector is being impacted. But that company, the Office Mover, I just had literally breakfast with the people today, the president, the new owners. And they're saying they're doing more decommissioning work now than office moves, which means, you've got big companies are saying, we don't need these floors anymore. We want you to decommission all these offices and just get rid of the stuff. So there's a growing trend now for having more staff. Like even in my offices, pre-COVID, I was looking at buying another condominium unit to expand my office capability. I'm not doing that now because we're effectively have people who love to work from home. Some people work from home really well, others terribly, and you have to manage that. So we have cohorts that come in Monday and Wednesday, and other cohorts, portion of our team, that come in Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? So we now have certain offices that are almost not quite 2 people to 1 office, but maybe 1.5, and people are really enjoying that, and it seems to be working for my industry. Okay. The only challenge I think businesses are going to have is HR challenges going down the road. And I'll give you an example of that is that, and I've experienced it already, I don't care how good you are. If you want a promotion 9 times out of 10 is impacted by your personal relationship and how well people know you face to face, knee to knee on a day in, day out basis. If you're nothing but a picture on a screen and you're up against a person who's in the office 2-3 days a week, you go out for lunch with, you have laughs with, you know, you have some great conversations with, that person got the upper edge of getting that promotion, not that person who wants to work from home on a screen and only view you on a screen. And I think that's going to cause some HR problems in the next year or two, because people are going to say, well, I've got the capabilities, just are more than that guy, that person. But that's not necessarily why you get promoted. So there's all sorts of stuff, and people skills. You know, you don't need much people skills sitting across a screen like you and I. You need a lot better people skills when you're, you know, face to face with someone.
Yeah.
So people are losing people skills, I think, or forgetting them.
It's the end of the day, we are social human beings. You know, it's a relationship that you build with each other. I mean, that takes a lot more importance over just you know, talking on the phone or just doing a video chats. How about business leaders, Louis? Did that create a challenge for them? They have to manage people. You know, managing people, you know, in a one room, under the one building is much easier than trying to manage that you know, people when they're working from home, or the cameras, or the video chats. You think that created a little bit of leadership challenges? That how we're going to manage people, how we're going to you know, motivate people, and how we're going to make sure that everybody's on the same page communication wise?
I don't know if the word challenge is the right word. I think it's just different techniques now. You have to learn different techniques. You know, to manage someone, you know, remotely is different from managing people in your offices. You know, I like to personally get up, and I call it management by walking around. You know, like right after this meeting with you and I'm going to get up and walk around the office, say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, that, just to see if they're okay and they're doing well. Are there any questions I can answer? I can't do that remotely, not easily. So it's just different techniques that happens. Again, we like to, as a society, over dramatize the problem or the issue. We turn issues into problems, or into challenges, and then into problems, and then to real issues and problems. You know, it's just, no, just take a step back, take a breath, and say it's just a different technique you have to learn if you don't already have that capability. So I'm not a chicken little, the sky is falling type guy. We have a very resilient, you know, culture. We really do, and we've got so many people that are experienced business leaders, and again, entrepreneurs. If there's one thing, there's a common trait of entrepreneurs. They all have this unrelenting need to succeed. I'm going to say it again. An unrelenting need to succeed. They will find a way for the most part. And if they can't, they'll go down crash and burning because they fought the fight. And that's why I love entrepreneurs. They are the lions of our society. They help create our economy. Again, I say it, over 76% of all non-government employment are by these few, less than 2% of the population, people who have the balls and the ability to deal with adversity day in, day out. God bless them. I love them. And I wish our politicians would recognize that more.
Yeah. And, you know, I hear you coming from, you know, from yours, you know, side. Definitely, I see that, because I think we all go through it, you know, for you know, I've been on it for like 11, 12 years now. So, you know, I hear you, what you just mentioned, that it's a hard work. It's you have to put a lot on a line to get through all the challenges, right? So the sacrifice you make, you know, that most entrepreneurs, you know, I think all of them, we make sacrifices on a family level, on a personal level, and on a financial level. So you make all those sacrifices, and that's what it takes to keep the business moving.
100%. 100%.
Interesting. So if you can, I think, I know we're almost on the time. I want to make sure that I respect your time. So if you talk about a little about those two books, what those books about, I saw the title, and I think I already haven't got it, but which one came first, and what is those books about?
Well, the first one is called Mothers and Fathers, and a guide to help us help them. And it was a combination of financial and health advice. So a good friend of mine who's a pharmacist, but he specializes in geriatric pharmacy, Peter Zavodsky, he helped write the health side of it, and I wrote the financial side of it. And the reason is because, especially at that time, I have parents who were in their 60s and 70s, both immigrants, and from a financial side, they were unsophisticated, and from a health side, they came from cultures where if a doctor told you that the cure was to strip yourself naked and hang from the Don Valley Bridge for an hour and you'll be cured, they'd do it, right?
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So we decided to write a book geared to us, the children of our parents. How do you help them? How do you help make them understand or get them the right advisors and people to help them? And that was a big hit. Actually, it was a bestseller in Canada, which surprised me. We were on TV, radio, and it was in Chapters. Back then, there was the Chapters bookstores, the front aisles and all this stuff. It was quite a fun thing to do. And then the second one, I've got to be honest, I did not write the book. I was approached by the person who had written it to review it for accuracy and to comment on some of his concepts. I did that. So I helped basically, I'm going to say, edit the book. And next thing I know, my name's on the book as an author or a co-author.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I take that as a compliment, but I can't really be less than honest to say that he wrote 99.9% of that book. So let's call that as it is. So
interesting. Where can people still find these books? If somebody wants to.
Well, the first one's certainly out of print by now. Because that was I wrote that in 2000, I think it was.
Okay.
It was released in 2000, and the second one was released a few years ago, so I think it's out of print as well. So I mean, they're just out of print now, but if anyone is curious about chapters, I'm pretty sure I can get chapters. I could PDF chapters to people. In fact, that's not a bad idea. I could put everything digitally and just send it off as interesting reading from time to people.
Interesting.
Some of it might be a little dated from a tax perspective, but it's still there. It's relevant.
Yeah, the concepts are still there. The logic is still there. Interesting. So, who do you connect with these days, Louis? How do you help people? Who do you interact with these days? Where your energies are these days? On a business side.
Oh, well, right now a lot of my energy is actually geared towards my staff, because again, to your point earlier, COVID's changed a lot of things. So we're kind of evolving ourselves right now to see what's the best way to have a happy, interactive staff that's productive, and what's the impact on the business, if any, right? So we're working with a lot of staff and creating we've created a fund committee as an example. We've created a culture committee. Things of that nature. When I say culture, the firm culture. So lots of stuff there. Other than that, there's a lot of business that come to me. I just don't have the time to filter and to deal with. But I pick and choose what I like to work on. And there's still a lot of interesting projects out there. Real estate has a lot of interesting opportunity right now. Right type of real estate. There's different derivatives of real estate, I'd like to say. Whether it's development, building, buying multiple unit residential, buying condos and flipping, buying, mortgages as a derivative, just investing in mortgages as a derivative of real estate. There's all sorts of interesting stuff going on there. So I'm really just all over the place. I can't give you a good answer. I enjoyed them.
Yeah, no, it's that's an interesting concept in a real estate. I was thinking about the same thing that what's going on right now. There's a lot of opportunities in for multi-units, buildings or condos that for an investment standpoint. I'm always looking into that. I'm always interested in real estate side of things that for secondary. Interesting.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So, anything else? Any other advice that you would have for business leaders who are, trying to ramp up, increase the revenue again, or trying to, get the growth again in a business? Many different areas you just mentioned, or trying to scale up a business right after the COVID.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to really do a deep dive into a business plan. Your strategy for the next 18 to 24 months. and then surround yourself with the right people that can be experts in each element of that plan that requires success, right?
Mhm.
So you break down your plan into a tactics. Who's going to manage each tactic? You need that because we're entering into a world of inflation. We're already there. Depending on, again, government policies going forward, it could become hyperinflation or even more stagflation.
Mhm.
We're very much on the cusp. I belong to a macroeconomics group. It's like a little mini private think tank.
Yeah.
And we have some very esteemed people in this group. So we're talking in terms of the big picture. And depending on which way certain government policies will go, and this election will have a big impact on that, we could be seeing all sorts of impact on business from whether inflation, hyperinflation, or stagflation. And that will impact on interest rates, which will impact on debt servicing, which impacts every industry.
Mhm.
So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes. And because we do not know what's going to happen, you need to be flexible. You need to build into your business plan flexibility to pivot. You do not have flexibility to pivot if you've not even thought about it. It's not an after the fact thinking. It's got to be a predetermined, proactive thinking.
Mhm.
And you want to have, as a result of that, the right people that you can access or hire immediately on to help build that strategy and be able to pivot
Mhm.
depending on which way the economy goes, right?
Mhm.
So the number one piece of advice I would say is that never before in the last 30 years has it ever been so important to sit back and do a strategic plan or a business plan, whatever you want to call it. Be very proactive with your banking relationships.
Mhm.
Okay? Very proactive. Your banker is a fair weather friend.
Mhm.
They love you today, but as soon as the dark clouds show up, they may not want you anymore because they don't want to have any risk. So you need to prepare for all sorts of contingencies. That's a smart business person right there. Start the planning process.
Interesting. Do you still help out businesses for consulting side of things or advisory side of things? Do you still get involved with
Yeah,
the organization?
we absolutely do. I mean, I've got a good team here. I mean, I get involved a little bit here and there, depending on how interesting the business is to me.
Mhm.
But I've got a great team that does all sorts of consulting, and not only that, but I have a great network of people that I could call into to say, well, look, I've got a client here that needs this. Knock yourself out, right?
Mhm.
And no, I do it because I have a passion for the small businessman. My heart's in for the business person, right? Because I know the challenges they face. So I go out of my way to help and do that. And our firm is always there as well to help those clients on a business, legal, tax, all sorts of areas to help their business get structured properly and have the right type of business strategies in place.
Interesting. Well, I learned so much from our conversation, Luis. I'm definitely advising if somebody needs advice or somebody needs a second opinion. The business owner have a lot of, the blank spots that where they can't see, themselves, but, somebody like you, definitely can guide them in the right direction. Where can people find you? How can they connect with you, Luis?
Well, the easiest way is to contact us at HS and Partners, and we're in Mississauga. And if you Google HS and Partners, you'll easily find it. Or myself, Louis Sapi, you can contact me at 416-574-0455. But if you visit our website at HS, you'll be able to email us, etc. And that's the easiest way to get in touch with us.
Yeah. Now we send this video to all of our partners on our contacts. So I'll make sure I'll include your contact information there and link to your website as well, so they can just click a button and connect with you.
Thank you very much. It was lovely speaking today.
Likewise. Thank you so much for your time, Luis.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.